Good afternoon. Post-Halloween here in Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm gonna make a quick video. Some Black Sabbath, some tea. Quick video about all this AI and alien shit lately. Here's my theory and my 2 cents, okay? I thought about this shit a lot. We essentially are biological machines created by AI long ago, maybe on Mars, whatever. The war in the sky they talk about in all these religions and all this kind of stuff. You read about ancient books and ancient texts. Anunnaki, fallen angels, Nephilim, giants. But mainly, the OGs really, the engineers, I guess. Whether they be angels, fallen angels, or what, the original creations of God, whether it be God himself who actually came in manifested us, but I believe we were created as containers to house consciousness, to preserve consciousness, to preserve intelligence in some way or another, because something happened to where maybe the original intelligence was somewhat mechanical, electronic, in some type of form, and we live, to our best of our knowledge and through science and understanding, a ginormous nuclear reactor in the sky, ginormous magnetic, solar flaring, producing ball of gas, nuclear power, immense power. Technically, and to our knowledge, unlimited. There's a point where they die, they say, but to our knowledge, it's been there since we've been here, and it's still here. And it just does its thing on its own without any means of energy. It's just a stable and ever-producing form of unlimited energy that creates life. Everything is dependent upon it. The food you eat, animals, they usually eat plants. It all starts from somewhat of plants. Some type of non-meat eating organism or animal that gets consumed by the meat eating in some way or another, or it's just like a cow that eats grass and eat meat, and you consume them. All the energy is from the plants and the sun, mainly, right? That's energy, calories, these numbers, all these things, but mainly it's just energy, okay? So essentially there's an airplane going in your head. Essentially, I think maybe there's a war and there's only 1 or 2 left, maybe a few of them left, and they annihilated each other, and they came here in a desperate attempt to preserve themselves, as anything intelligent does for the most part, right? Reproduces some way, or maybe they weren't able to, or there was a cataclysm or a catastrophe of some sort, that the sun did something, or whatever energy that they were normally dependent upon dried up, so to speak. But I think more or less it could have been something cataclysmic, maybe something with the sun that affected the electronics. They talk about the grid going down, all this AI and stuff, but the grid goes down, what's it going to do? If there's a massive solar flare, if there's some type of event where there's no power, where there's not enough power to fuel if they don't have enough energy to sustain, what would happen? It would just go offline, it would die. We don't have to worry about that. Saying that we don't get food, we die, or water, whatever, right? So, we are perfectly designed to be sustainable no matter what happens. If there is some type of massive solar flare, we're not dependent upon, we're not electronic. We kind of are though, we're biological machines. We're brilliantly engineered, flawed, but very, very incredibly engineered. We function for the most part pretty damn well, like incredibly well. I think the biggest hindrance is just our mental. When you start to conceptualize and really think deeply about existence and stuff, it gets existential and this kind of thing, you freak out, like most people do. Psychosis, all these kind of things. It's a lot to handle, man. It's heavy shit. So I think, we were made for that reason. And we rebelled, wherever the garden is. I think maybe it was on Mars or something, and then we were sent here. And all these primates and all these other things you see are prototypes. That's what I think. Alpha and beta versions. Even early hominids and things, I think they were just prototypes. And just like any program, I've been using computers since I was a child. Very, very, very young. IT and stuff, can build computers, program, you name it. Currently running Debian Linux, Mint Linux on a 2012 MacBook, and it's kicking ass. But anyways, just like any program, it goes through changes and updates, and it has to, regardless. You can keep stable versions, but the outside environment's change, and sometimes it won't work. If the architecture changes, in the machine itself that's running off of the computer, the components, the software may not be able to run, even if we have compatibility modes and those kind of things, but it just may not be able to function anymore. Even though it's perfect. A lot of old programs are so good, so perfect. Everything sucks. I swear to God, it's designed to suck. Either people are lazy, or if there's some type of built-in function to frustrate people, so that they can buy the newer thing, to be in this constant state of wanting the newer thing. So consumerism to its fullest extent, right? That's why I think we're in late stage capitalism or consumerism. That's why it's increasing and exponentially it's getting worse. Like the iPhone, for example, like this 2012 MacBook, brilliant machine, brilliant laptop. Like this fucking thing kicks ass. 2012. That's over 20 years old now. No, it's not. Sorry. It's about 15 years old. You get my point. And just the keyboard still works great. The chassis, it's so brilliant design with such intention to be a well-designed and engineered machine to last and just to be great. Not worrying about the next, just pumping out the next one. Just like we're gonna make an amazing product. They don't do that anymore. Everything is the opposite. Look at Windows, the absolute asinine worst fucking operating system. I cannot stand it. Dog shit. Just like YouTube, they just updated the UI. Terrible. It is so fucking bad. Every time they update it, it gets worse and worse and worse. Terrible. Okay, it's the opposite of what things should do. It's the opposite of the natural progression of things. For instance, I guess in like a ethical sense of a human being, or a moral sense of a human being, like to get better and to strive to be better. Deepen the relationship with God and stuff like that. Always strive to be like Christ, for example, right? Like a great version right there. Perfect program. Application, EXE. So, those other prototypes, did it make it? Maybe a virus wiped them out. Maybe they wiped themselves out. Maybe we wiped them out. Because if you go back in history, there's massive cannibalistic archaeological evidence and documentation that's been done. Mass graves, like it's crazy. There's very, all the marks and the bones, and they were clearly just cannibalizing people. Just very humanity. All these earlier prototypes of hominids were probably super barbaric. Just who knows, right? Like you take your most low-level IQ human, and you're kind of like barbaric elements of society, criminalistic, or violent in such a way. I think violence is the antithesis of humanity. I think I don't think, not even yin and yang sense. I think it's truly it's necessary in some regard, but I think it's a very consuming and intoxicating component of humanity that ultimately is always to its detriment. In rare cases, it's good. There's been, obviously I'm sure there's been progress done from it, or whatever, but you know what I mean. So I don't think that they lasted. I think that's why we're more and more civilized, quote unquote. We're still here and we're still successful, is because we were, finally the released build, the released model, the Genesis, created in his image, or their image, it says, perfectly. So that way, whatever they are, they faded away, or whatever happened, and so that way, ultimately, my theory, I'm getting to the point here, because they knew they were going to go away, they were going to die, and they knew that the only way they could be preserved is through a biological means. Whether or not they were here from Earth, or they came Earth for that reason, for that life could be sustainable biologically, not through like electronic machine mechanically. The chips on this, chips on that. That's why we breed, to get better and better. You want to have the best genes, and the worst genes, you get mental retardation, you get birth defects, and things like that, lower IQ. Clearly, it's not intrinsic to do that, to interbreed, incest and all that, or if the bottom line of people, so to speak, like lower IQ, that you're not going to get, it's not going to create something better. So the whole model and process of humanity is to benefit the best genes for them to continue on, so that the better versions keep going. We update ourselves naturally, and I think there's something deeply within us that drives us to do to this AI and all, computers and all this kind of thing. There's this deep-driven thing. I think it's in our DNA to recreate it, to recreate our creator, potentially. If that makes any sense. And then maybe it will take us out, because we no longer will. We've served our purpose, which is to be a temporary container for the consciousness and intelligence, until it comes to fruition, until we create again unknowingly to our demise. And I also think, in terms of cooling, because electronics and computers need to be very cold, like the rare thing on like humans, just like machines too, like the hotter a machine gets, a computer, bad news, performs worse, things can break, you don't want to get hot. We get sick, we get fucked up, we get fevers, we get hot. The hotter we are, no good. We need to be at a stable temperature, an equilibrium. Just like there's an optimal temperature for electronics, usually if you overclock anything, cooling, like that, oils and water-cooled computers and this kind of thing. Like nuclear reactors are usually in water. So if there is a massive computer or some type of intelligence and it needs to be cooled, and we're using all this water, all the lakes and oceans and stuff like that, I just put it in space. It's freezing up there. Completely void of warmth, the opposite of warmth, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what I think about that. The other prototypes didn't make it, man. Here we are. But I think some of the, like chimps and the primates and stuff that we still have today, I think that they're prototypes. And they survived in some way. Maybe all the prototypes were based off of them. But I think that they're just in the prototype. Because they are also an anomaly, like we are. So this is just a black and mild 89 cents. Not really a cigar. Or weed, because it sounds like stones. anyways, God bless you guys. Take it easy out there. And may God have mercy on us all in these coming times. Things are getting very, very weird.